Hello, hi, welcome back to my course on enhancing soft skills and personality. I am Ravichandran giving you this course for the past 2 weeks through NPTEL MOOC from IIT Kanpur. This week we will continue with the theme that I started in the last lecture, that is on assertiveness. In this week we will look at the types of people with regard to assertiveness, and this is third week. So, I am happy that you have done the assignments for the first 2 weeks and you have reached the third week, and this is the first unit of third week, and this is lesson number 11, second topic in assertiveness, and we will focus on types of people. And before I start, let us take a quick look at what I did in the last lesson. I dealt with the importance of being assertive in the last lesson. So, overall we were trying to look at the many instances in which people say yes when actually they wanted to say no, or actually they should have said no. Whether it could be choosing a very simple ice cream, or making a very difficult career choice, or choosing a life partner for themselves, people often go by the opinion of others. This clearly indicates lack of assertion. Thinking that going by others' choices will keep them in comfort zone, actually they get trapped in compliant zone. So, compliance is the tendency to always obey, always be subservient to the will of others. So, thinking that you are actually going towards a comfort zone by taking into consideration most of the times the choices of others. So, what you are doing is actually you are really not in a comfort zone, but you are in a compliant zone. You are all the time yielding to others' wishes. Now, why these kind of people are rather choosing choices of others than trying to choose for themselves? Most of the times they are afraid of confronting the unknown themselves. So, known devil they would rather compromise with than to try to confront with the unknown angel, however good or however happy it might be. But I was trying to tell you that real happiness will depend on 3 C's of life. First one is choices, and the choices that you will make based on the chances. So, the chance, for instance, like choosing between the known devil and unknown angel. So, if you make the choice of choosing the unknown angel, that is the unknown opportunity that is appearing to be risky, but it will have lot of rewards hidden in it. Now, if you take that chance, obviously it will change your life and changes the life for the better. But again, interestingly, people often say yes when they should have said no, because they do not want to hurt others. So, the majority of the people, they say yes because they do not want to hurt others. They also want to keep others happy, and they care for other people often more than themselves. They generally want other people to be pleased in their company, and they do not want to be rejected. And in countries like India, in South Asian countries in general, where lot of respect is shown to the elders, people generally want to show that they are obedient and respectful to elders, seniors and aged people. So, they do not want to show that they are disobedient by asserting their own choices, even if it is at the cost of risking their own lives. Okay. Now, in order to take your own choice, I just ended with two simple suggestions. One, the first and the foremost thing, never say yes if you have to say no. Okay. So, you should never say yes if you have to say no. This is the first golden principle. And if there is a choice you have to make between fear and growth, always choose growth. The fear is always something that is seen as very dangerous, but always it disappears once you take the first bold step towards growth. And I ended up by quoting the famous poem from Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken, with the implication that if you take the road not taken, it will make all the difference in your life. At the end of it, I also left you with one small exercise in terms of practicing your assertiveness. I told you to practice assertiveness in 3 different situations and make a note of your comfort or discomfort level and take a note of how others feel. What were your observations? In how many situations could you successfully assert yourself? Some of you could have successfully asserted in 2, some might have tried even 4 or 5 situations. So, what were your observations? How did the people around you felt about you? Like for instance, if somebody forced you for a cup of coffee when you have to write that particular assignment, did you have the courage to say no? Okay. And if you said no, did you feel comfortable, or how did the other person feel about you? Did you note any change in reactions? Often people, if they are so used to your passive self, they know that you are not assertive, and then they can take you for granted. Whenever they want to go for a cup of coffee, they can always come and drag you. But whenever they are busy, and even if you want to go for a cup of coffee with them, they will always say, no, I am busy, I am sorry. And you never had the courage to ask them to go with you. They know about it. But this time, if you had said no, they would have noted that you are trying to assert yourself. If the company is dishonest, the person would obviously show some kind of discomfort on the face. But if the person is genuine, would also think that okay, this is a genuine reason that you are giving, and the person would not put force on you to go with that person at that point of time. And how did you feel about yourself? Most of the times when you assert, by being honest with your own inner self, you will feel comfortable. You will feel as if your burden is reduced. You will feel that you are not carrying any baggage in you. You will be happy. But in case you are somewhere in the midway, somewhere you are not sure of yourself, somewhere you are confused, you may feel embarrassed, little bit uncomfortable, but that's okay. That's okay for a beginner. So now let's know more about what kind of person that you are so far, and then you need to become a person who is assertive in order to develop, enhance your soft skills as well as personality. And in order to make that one person that everybody likes, you should be assertive, not aggressive. Now, I am indirectly using terms like assertiveness, aggressiveness and passiveness. So, just to prepare you to understand the basic types of people which we can categorize into 3: the passive, the assertive and the aggressive. Now, in this lecture, in this lesson, I am just going to describe these 3 people, and then I do not want to embarrass you, but I will be happy to know if you come under the assertive person based on the behavior pattern that I am going to describe. But in case you are mostly under the passive category of people, please try to reach the assertive level. In the next lesson, I am going to teach you how you can reach this assertive level systematically, categorically, smoothly and easily. But at the same time, never try to emulate the aggressive traits. You should never become the aggressive people. Now, let us try to know what I mean by passive, assertive, aggressive, and then try to figure out where you fit in. Now, passive types of people can further be subgrouped or subcategorized into inactive or the non-assertive. So, inactive, you understand that they are just passive, they do not do anything, and the next level is non-assertive, not showing any behavior of assertion. They are also coming under the category of being indirect. So, you can broadly divide them into inactive, non-assertive as well as indirect group of people, all come under the passive types. Now, what do the passive people do in situations where they need to assert the right for themselves, where they need to speak up? What do they do? Passive people do not state their opinion at all, they just keep mum. they keep quiet. Surprisingly and contradictorily, they agree with opposing opinions. Even when they know that the opposing opinions are going to harm their own self-interest, they agree with opposing opinions. They are afraid to speak up even when they are sure that they are right. This is again very ironic trait in them. They are afraid to speak up even when they are sure that they are right. And in fear of causing disharmony, they allow bullying or domineering people to overrule them. So, since they do not want to disturb the harmony of the group, so they will keep quiet, but they will let people to bully them, threaten them, dominate them. And throughout some meetings or dialogues or brainstorming sessions, they prefer to remain subservient in fear of rejection by loved ones or good colleagues. So, they choose to be subservient. So, the indirect ones who also are part of the passive types are slightly better in trying to assert in an indirect way, but often are ignored. They slightly try to raise their voice. So, they slightly a simple example, let us say tea is being served to all. This passive person did not get tea, so is the person who is next to this person. Now, this person being indirect will not say I need a cup of tea, would rather say my neighbor does not have a cup of tea, would you mind bringing one for this person? And when it is brought, so if the other person would ask, oh, it looks like you also do not have a cup of tea, then the person may say, of course. Okay. But otherwise directly the person will not ask that I feel like drinking a cup of tea. Indirectly, that somebody is not having, and if you come to serve that person, you may take a note of me not having a cup of tea and you may give it to me. So, that is indirect method. They are slightly better, but often they are also lost because they just murmur, they say things in a gentle manner, they are not that assertive or not that loud as the aggressive people are. Now, the assertive versus aggressive. I already quoted from Stanley Phillips and Nancy Austin's book The Assertive View in the previous lecture, and I would like to re-quote the same one with an added explanation. Assertiveness is the ability to express yourself and your rights without violating the rights of others. It is appropriately direct, open and honest communication which is self-enhancing and expressive, whereas aggressiveness is expressing oneself in a forceful and domineering manner that the rights of the other person is ignored or violated. So, in the previous case, assertive person is also expressing himself or herself, aggressive person is also expressing himself or herself, but see the difference in the way they are expressing. The first one is trying to prevent his as well as others' right. The second one, aggressive one, is concerned only about his right and at the cost of ignoring the rights of other people. The aggressive person is so self-centered and often angry and does not hesitate to humiliate the other person, whereas the assertive person never humiliates the other person, although asserts himself or herself, but the assertive one is never intending to humiliate the other person. Now, let us try to see how these three types of people stand apart. How do they behave in terms of expressing, in terms of body language, in terms of communication, and overall how do they react, how do they receive others' responses. So, in the next 4 slides, I have just categorized passive, assertive, aggressive types and then their behavior and characteristic patterns. Let us look at each one of them, and then when I try to compare and contrast, you will be able to understand clearly where you stand. And as I said, if you are standing in either passive or aggressive side, it's high time that you come to the assertive side. That is why I have kept assertive as a kind of the middle path. Now, passive, a passive person fails to stand up for oneself, whereas an assertive person stands up for oneself without violating the basic rights of the other person. Aggressive person stands up for oneself by violating the rights of the other person. It is the basic difference. In terms of emotion, the passive one is dishonest, feels lot of turmoil inside, feels like expressing so much, but keeps quiet, appears as if there is nothing to say. Even when somebody is asking, do you have something to say? He will say, no, 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 it's okay, okay, nothing. Assertive person is emotionally honest. Aggressive one is also emotionally honest but blunt, rude in expressing emotionally himself, but at the same time attacking the others in a very rude, violent manner. The passive person is self-effacive. So, self-effacive is like not having any self-esteem, so trying to evade his or her own feelings, and is often inhibited as a kind of deep introvert as against having some extroversial tendencies, and most like the assertive or aggressive people. The assertive one is a very self-enhancing type and is open in communication. The aggressive one is self-dominating, although open in communication. As I said, open to the extent of too open, candid, and too hurtful to others' feelings. The passive person is indirect, inexpressive in terms of expression. The assertive person is direct, straightforward, uses the exact words and phrases, very succinct in expression. The aggressive one is too direct, forcefully expressive to the extent that forces others to listen and all the time bulldozes others to listen to his or her points only. The passive person is hurt inside and anxious at the time when communication is taking place. The assertive person is confident and self-respectful. The aggressive person feels superior and self-righteous. He or she thinks that only what the aggressive person thinks is the rightful one. Others have no right. The passive person regrets and gets angry later. Like once the communication or the meeting is over, the passive person fumes within, regrets why he or she was not able to express freely, gets angry with oneself, gets angry with others. Whereas the assertive person feels calm and collected and comfortable later. He or she knew that the best was done and done to the favor of the assertive person. So, lot of comfort remains at the end of meeting or a communication. The aggressive person feels insecure but doesn't show it out. So, it's in fact psychologically they say that it's the insecure people who are actually aggressive. So, very often you might have noted during riots and all that people show a lot of aggression, they just throw the cycle, they break whatever is available on the way. Okay. Now, that aggressive behavior is actually an indication of the insecurity they feel within. So, they feel insecure and guilty also, although as I said they may not show it, but inside they will feel guilty that they try to hurt the sentiments of others, they forcefully took something from others. But it is the assertive person who remains calm and collected and feels comfortable. The passive person indulges in self-pity and is generally disgusted with others. The assertive person values oneself and empathizes with others aggressive person shows anger and becomes vengeful. Even if the assertive person wins politely an argument, the aggressive person will take note of it and decide that I have to give back, I have to take revenge. So, always the assertive person feels that I lost and I should never lose. Okay, it's like he feels that you won and I am losing. Whereas the assertive person feels or ends up always in a kind of win-win situation. The aggressive person, it has to be win-lose. The passive is of the category lose-win. So, I lose, you win, I have no problem. Whereas the aggressive is at the other end. I should win, but you should lose. The assertive person thinks, I win, you should also win. We should go for an amicable solution that favors both of us. I will not give up my right, but at the same time, I will not disregard your right. So, this is a basic attitudinal difference these people try to show. And again, passive person in group discussions and all that, or in situation where the passive person has to say something about himself or herself, never speaks up. Whereas the assertive person speaks up openly. Aggressive person interrupts and never lets others talk. It's the aggressive person who will keep on interrupting. Passive person, if at all speaks, it will be just very low tone, murmuring occasionally. Assertive person uses a friendly tone, neither too loud nor too low, but quite audible. Aggressive person shouts loudly. In fact, these are the ones people call as loud mouth. The passive one would always avoid eye contact, either bows down or tries to glance some way or some other way. The assertive person maintains eye contact and uses positive body language, open palm gesture, friendly handshake, etc. The aggressive one will always try to stare at people and staring in such a manner to bully them, threaten them and intimidate them. The passive one slouches, withdraws and always try to maintain a distance. If everybody is sitting close together, would like to sit somewhere in a remote corner or in the last row. The assertive person relaxes, adopts open stance and expressions. The aggressive person shows very rigid and domineering gestures, invades personal space of others, will come too close and try to show very dominating gestures so that it intimidates the other person. Overall, the passive person feels alienated in groups, feels isolated, feels that nobody is trying to relate to this person. Whereas the assertive person participates actively in groups, feels that he is a fellow participant and he should contribute. The aggressive person, showing that he is trying to contribute, showing that he is trying to participate, will actually try to control the entire group. The passive person nods and says yes despite disagreement. Assertive person agrees only if it is in conformity with own feelings. Aggressive person demands, forces others to agree with his views. Passive one feels inferior to others, assertive one feels equal to others, aggressive one feels superior to others. Passive hurts oneself in order to avoid hurting others. Assertive one ensures nobody is hurt. Aggressive one hurts others to avoid being hurt. In terms of the OK principle, passive one is I am not OK, but you are OK. Assertive one, I am OK and you are OK. Aggressive one, I am OK by ensuring you are not OK. I will ensure that my okayness depends on you being not OK. Passive one never uses any strong words expressing desire. Assertive one never uses abusive words, never uses unparliamentary words, never use foul language. Aggressive ones can be both verbally and physically abusive. These are the people who are short tempered, who get angry, who would rather throw whatever is available in their hand on the other person, who gets angry and slaps the other one, kicks the other one. So, all aggressive behavior, verbal as well as physical, the passive ones are just afraid of others, the assertive ones are always assured of their selves, and they are never afraid of others, whereas the aggressive person threatens others and feels insecure inside, and as I said, it is because of this insecurity actually the person tries to threaten others. Now, in terms of listening skills, the passive ones are marginal listeners. They are not fully interested in what is happening, but they hear then and there. So, they may not even fully take the inputs, they may even misunderstand, they may even feel negative towards what is being suggested without understanding the full import of it. Assertive ones are active listeners, they take note of what is being discussed and they do not interrupt, they give time for the others to talk fully and then they raise their opinion, whereas the aggressive ones are poor listeners. In fact, they do not listen at all, they do not let others speak and they do not listen to others. The passive ones in terms of feelings shows too much sympathy, the assertive ones would show appropriate empathy, whereas the aggressive one shows sheer antipathy, only hatred. So, no feeling of sharing something with a fellow human being, it is all the time showing antagonism, negativity, hatred. Passive one disconnects with others, assertive one connects with others, aggressive one tries to overpower and control others. The passive one towards the end of any communication or meeting or conversation would end up being a complaint. So, would complain about others, blames or sometimes hides one's feeling and excessively prizes others. The assertive one would neither complain nor prize others. The aggressive one can be sarcastic, critical, harsh and disrespectful of others. The passive ones, they actually let people use them and they are miserable without genuine friends, whereas the assertive ones, they try to maintain good relationship with others. The aggressive person makes many enemies and interestingly they also lose good friends eventually, because sooner or other they will try even to dominate their good friends, and willy nilly even the good friends realize their aggressive behavior is never going to change. So, they fall out eventually. So, only enemies stay with them for longer. The passive ones overall would feel helpless and alone. They keep complaining that nobody thinks of me, nobody supports me, I am all alone, I am isolated in this department, I am alienated in this office. Nobody in this world understands me, nobody in the family treats me fairly. So, that is the passive person's overall feeling. The assertive person knows how to help himself or herself and let others help him or her. The aggressive person forces others to serve him or her by threatening, by dominating. The aggressive person will overall ensure by bossing around, by manipulating, by cheating, by just shouting, would ensure that the others try to serve him. Okay. Now, this is the way I want you to look at these three categories of people and honestly just introspect, look at the qualities once again, see where you fit in. Are you passive? Are you assertive or are you aggressive? Another interesting thing that you might notice that you may not be passive all the time. You may be passive with your boss, but you may be aggressive with your brother or sister, okay, somebody who is lower in position to you. You may be assertive in certain other situations, but what is needed is that you need to be assertive in all situations, irrespective of the people around you, whether they are superior to you or inferior to you or equal to you. you need to assert your rights all the time without hurting others. Now, in the next one, we will try to look at how you can actually assert without hurting others. But before I conclude this one, I want you to leave with two interesting quotes related to assertion. One is from Warren Buffett, the famous financial expert. He says the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything, implying the really successful people have the guts to say no to almost everything. They are assertive to almost everything. They can say no, and that is the key for their success. Two other quotations from Beverly Engel from the book The Nice Girl Syndrome. Stop being manipulated and abused and start standing up for yourself. This another book that I have added for your must read books at the end of this lesson. The first quote from this author generally tells how you have become non-assertive. Look at the quotation carefully. The messages you received from your family or your childhood experiences may have caused you to believe that assertiveness is unacceptable or even dangerous. Practice saying the following: I have the right to be treated with respect by others. I have the right to express my feelings and opinions. I have the right to say no without feeling guilty. This is something I want you to keep in your mind, in your innermost mind deeply, and tell yourself again and again, I have the right to say no without feeling guilty. I have the right to ask for what I want. I have the right to make my own mistakes. I have the right to pursue happiness. How often we see people living a tragic life because they thought making a choice would make somebody else happy. But the somebody else, if he is genuinely concerned about this person, also feels so sad at the end, realizing that that person is neither happy and this person is so sorrowful, so remorseful. Okay. Now, the next quotation from the same author, quote unquote, if you live your life to please everyone else, you will continue to feel frustrated and powerless. Interesting, if you live your life to please everyone else, that is by saying yes, yes, yes all the time, you will continue to feel frustrated and powerless. This is because what others want may not be good for you. You are not being mean when you say no to unreasonable demands or when you express your ideas, feelings and opinions even if they differ from those of others. With this note, I leave you with this new book added under the must read book list, and then I wish you that you start asserting yourself, learn how to assert in all kinds of situations with all people, and demand the happiness that is rightfully yours, and start learning, pursuing the life of happiness by assertion and developing a very successful personality. Wish you all the best, and thank you so much for watching this video. I'll get back to you in the next one with more tips on asserting yourself. Thanks again.